Hi everyone, Arnold here, santamuertemagick.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. The topic of today's video is how to enchant objects with Santa Muerte magic. I have often said that the primary ingredient, the only truly necessary component of any form of magic, is intent. This is what makes it possible for anyone to practice magic, including Santa Muerte magic, because as long as you can figure out a way to convey your intent, then you will be able to communicate your desire to any energy, entity, or deity that you choose. The nice thing about intent is that it is absolutely free for everyone and absolutely accessible by anyone willing to learn how to use it. This being said, while all you need to perform successful magic is your own intent, incorporating physical tools into your magical practice can add an exponential amount of focus, and therefore exponential amounts of energy and power into your magical petitions. And one way to incorporate physical tools into your petitions is through the enchantment of physical items in order to create magical charms. To enchant something, to turn an ordinary object into a magical charm, is to imbue it or impregnate it with magical power. You might enchant an amulet with the magic ability to attract love into your life. You might enchant a set of work tools with the ability to attract clients into your life. The number of things that you can enchant and the type of magical energy you can enchant them with is limited only by your own imagination. So, how do you do it? How can you use Santa Muerte magic to enchant a physical item with magical energy? You have a few different options. Perhaps the easiest way to enchant something in terms of affordability and accessibility is with the power of prayer alone. Prayer requires nothing more than the ability to convey intent by words alone. As I've already said, the only thing you need to create magic is your intent. So if all you have is the item you want to enchant and nothing else, then you can enchant the item by praying a prayer over it. The prayer should call on Santa Muerte by name at least once, and the rest of the prayer should make it clear the type of energy that you want the item to hold. For example, if you have a dog, you could buy a dog collar, then enchant it with protective energy to keep your dog safe. For example, with a prayer like this: Santa Muerte, holy death, with this collar do protect my best friend who walks on four, dog of mine that I adore. Notice how the prayer starts by addressing Santa Muerte by name. The first line is Santa Muerte, holy death, and the rest of the prayer conveys the intent I want to achieve, which is to associate a dog collar, which my dog will wear, with protection energy. If this was something I was actually doing, I might pray the prayer more than once over the item. If I was using the power of prayer alone, then I might pray over the item up to 100 times a day for several days in a row, and then I would consider the item enchanted with my magical intent. I may not pray so many times if I was blending with other tools or techniques, like those that I will be explaining next, but if prayer is the only tool that I can use, then I will emphasize the prayer. Moving on, one of the most common methods shared on my website for enchanting a physical item is to place the item in the light of a burning candle. This does not mean lighting the item on fire. You are not passing the item through the flame of the candle. It means safely setting the item next to a burning candle, so the light from the flame shines on the item to be enchanted. At the beginning of the process, after the candle has been lit, and as the light of the flame shines on the item I am enchanting, I might pray an appropriate prayer over the item, maybe 3 or 9 times, then let the candle burn to completion. I would also match the candle to the intent that I wanted to convey. So a red candle for love, a gold candle for money, and I might also etch or scratch something into the candle related to the desired outcome. So if I am enchanting a set of tools to attract money to my business, I might use a gold candle and etch the name of my business into the wax of the candle. Another option to enchant an item is to set it in the smoke of burning incense. Again, I would probably use an incense that matches the intent I want to convey. For example, placing a love charm so it stands in the smoke of a rose-scented incense. Like with the candle instructions I just discussed, I might light the incense, then as the smoke and scent fills the area where I am working, I would probably recite an appropriate prayer 3 or 9 times. Then I might leave the item in place until the incense burned to completion. In all of the cases described so far, first, the power of prayer alone; second, placing in the light of a burning candle; or third, placing in the smoke of burning incense, you may be wondering if your charm will eventually need to be re-energized or re-enchanted from time to time. I would let your intuition be your guide. If you think the power of the charm might be waning, then feel free to enchant it again. If you are not sure if the item needs to be recharged, then you can also use your favorite yes-no method of divination to determine whether or not you should re-enchant the item. The next suggestions I'm going to share do not present this problem because you basically re-energize or re-enchant the item on a regular basis, just as a result of how these methods work. The first option is to store your item that you intend to be enchanted in an herb or blend of herbs associated with the outcome you hope to achieve. For example, you could store a lapel pin in Abre Caminos herb. Abre Caminos literally means road opener, and Abre Caminos herb is associated with clearing a path to success. And then you could wear that pin before entering into important business negotiations or what have you. So I might store the item in a small bag of an appropriate herb like Abre Caminos, and whenever I wanted to wear the item to receive its magical energy, I would remove the item from the bag of herbs, recite an appropriate prayer 3 or 9 times over the item, and then wear or carry the item as normal. At the end of my day, or after my important business is done, I would return the item to the baggie of herbs, recite again an appropriate prayer 3 or 9 times, then tuck the baggie away somewhere safe, allowing my prayers and the herb or herbs in the baggie to re-energize or re-enchant the item as it rests. The second option is to anoint the item to be enchanted with an appropriate oil or blend of oils. For example, I could anoint a ring with chamomile oil. Chamomile is associated with gambling luck, before wearing the ring into a casino. I might anoint the ring before putting it on, recite a magic prayer over the ring 3 or 9 times, then wear the ring as normal. At the end of the day or after my time gambling, I would remove the ring, anoint it again with an appropriate oil, recite again an appropriate prayer over the item, maybe 3 or 9 times, and then tuck the ring safely away, allowing my prayers and the anointment of oil to re-energize or re-enchant the item as it rests. Well, with these methods, using an herb or an oil to enchant an item, you are essentially recharging or re-enchanting the item each time you pull it out of or put it into storage, so the power of the charm should remain constant. Lastly, you may have noticed I have not yet mentioned the Santa Muerte altar, but if you are able to perform any of the magical works I've just described, I would recommend performing those works at a Santa Muerte altar. It is not difficult to create an altar, and if you are able to create one, then you should. Remember that any depiction of death can serve as the foundation of a Santa Muerte altar. If you do not have a physical depiction of death, you can visualize an appropriate depiction. And if neither of those options are possible, then you can always speak or pray an altar into existence through your intent alone, which can be done by saying something as simple as, for example, Santa Muerte, in your name I perform this work, and then proceeding with the magical work you have planned. With that, I think I will start wrapping up the video. Overall, I just wanted to share some ideas that you could use to enchant physical items with magical energy, so you can create your own magical charms with your own intent, all in the name of Santa Muerte. I've just explained how you can use the power of prayer alone to enchant an item, or you can combine prayer with placing the item in the light of a burning candle, placing the item in the smoke of burning incense, storing the item in an herbal powder, or anointing the item with an oil. And if at all possible, then you should perform your enchantments at a Santa Muerte altar, either a physical altar, an altar which you visualize in your mind's eye, or an altar that you speak or pray into existence. Hopefully I've explained everything clearly, but as always, please let me know if you have any questions. You can get in touch through the contact form on the website. There's also the Patreon messenger system and the Discord chat server. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, bye.